Thinking. All right, we're recording now. Okay, welcome everybody to geography. This is basically unit 6. We're going to be talking about political systems and how they're kind of set up. A lot of them are all different throughout the entire world, but in the United States, we have kind of our own system here that's a little bit unique, which has been good for us for 200 plus years. Remember, this session is being recorded for learning purposes. Before I get into the objective, let's just jump through the class because we don't have much left in this block. Okay, as you remember right here, you can catch all of the recordings right here. Okay, class announcement page, first thing here, jump in, get her done that way. Okay, if we hit to plan real quick, we can see today's a live class, then we have lesson 6 quiz and a reflection. And then next week, we don't have a class. This is our last class. And then we have a post test that's due by Friday of next week. And then the last day of the block is the 18th. So if you are not caught up with things, go through, get everything caught up, finish all these things out. If you have a bad score on something, let's redo it, get you to whatever you want to be. But the last time I have for anything is the 18th. So you got to get anything in by that time. Okay. As we're looking here, this will be unit 6, political systems. Here's a Nearpod link right here. The lesson 6 quiz is right here. So you want to take that and then you'll have a reflection on kind of what you learned today. Okay. So here's what the objective is given a quiz in the OLS, students will identify different governmental organizations and key political figures with 80% accuracy across one trial. Okay, I do want to mention here in this class, especially when we're talking about classroom expectations, if you can jump on and follow along with the Nearpod, that's great. Today specifically, because anytime we talk about politics, oh my gosh, somebody wants to jump in and it just kind of gets maybe heated where it doesn't need to be. I'm not trying to go one way or another. I'm just trying to sit here and tell you this is what it kind of is right now. And you can decide your own political philosophy. Okay. I don't have any desire to tell you what to believe. All right. So make sure you use that respectfully and appropriately. And then also you're responding to questions and instructions the first time. Okay, so what we do know, though, in politics, okay, particularly in the U.S., is we have a very divided system here, okay? And we really have, because of the way the structure is set, we do not have multiple parties that really have influence. We only have 2 major parties that have influence. And if one of those were to get out, another party would come into play. But there's always just going to be 2 because of how the system's set up. But this is how much I kind of feel like with politics right here. Somebody says, yep, 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 nope, nope, nope. It's just constant fighting back and forth. And a lot of people don't feel like a lot of things get done, right? And they get frustrated by the system of how it works. But here's a little video on kind of the differences in history behind the 2 political parties, okay?
There are 2 main political parties in the United States, the Republicans and the Democrats. What is a political party? Why are there only 2 main parties? A political party is a group of people who have joined together because they share common principles, common beliefs, and common values, and they seek to control government by winning elections. Members of a party work to convince the government to adopt laws, regulations, and programs which reflect their party's beliefs. Political parties have a long history, both in the United States and in other countries as well. The United States has what is known as a 2-party system. A two-party system is a political structure in which only two political parties have a genuine chance of winning elections. However, it does not mean that only two parties are allowed to exist, as there are numerous other smaller parties. The two-party system developed in Great Britain. In the latter half of the 1600s and throughout the 1700s, two political parties, the Whigs and the Tories, emerged and established themselves as the dominant parties. This long-standing tradition of two main parties probably led to the eventual adoption of a similar system in the United States. Initially, the Founding Fathers intended for the American government to avoid politics. In fact, in his farewell address, George Washington warned against the existence of political parties, suggesting that such organizations were the enemies of government and would only distract government from its intended purpose. However, early political disagreements gave rise to the Federalist Party and the Democratic-Republican Party. Since that time, the United States has nearly always had two dominant parties. Currently, the two main political parties in the United States are the Democratic Party and the Republican Party. Every political party has what is known as a platform. A platform is a public statement of the party's main beliefs and guiding principles. Each of the stated principles of a platform is known as a plank. Party platforms can be rather lengthy, with modern parties having hundreds of planks. The party will adopt or update its platform every 4 years at the party's national convention. Political parties serve a wide variety of purposes. One of the most important functions a party serves is to nominate candidates. This helps a voter narrow his or her choices. Instead of voters studying a potentially limitless field of candidates, each party selects nominees. This allows the voter to focus attention on just 3 or 4 candidates and make a more informed decision. Another function of political parties is to inform voters. Whether it's through local, grassroots involvement such as letter writing campaigns, or party leaders speaking on television, parties attempt to let the general public know what's going on. This could also take the form of passing out flyers or pamphlets, or staging a large protest rally. The party that is in power can also set the agenda. This means that the party leaders will establish a course for the nation to follow. Whether it's a good course or a bad course would likely determine how long that particular party stayed in power. One final function of political parties is to serve as a watchdog. Both parties do an effective job of watching the other party to make sure they are doing the things they are supposed to. If one party becomes corrupt, the other will surely inform the public. So, even though the Founding Fathers did not desire political parties to exist, they will surely continue to be a part of the American political system for years to come.
All right. So just kind of looking at some of the comments kind of put in there about political parties. One of the things that they talked about was, is there actually like a communist American party? And that is real. Yep. There's plenty of people out there that still have those beliefs and ideologies. And so there's a whole different range of spectrums that kind of people are on, right? And actually something you can do that I'll mention at the very end is, this is not required or mandatory by any means, but you could take a political party affiliation thing. I'll just put that in the chat right now. It's probably a good time to do it. And so that will kind of let you know basically where your political ideology lies, and that's kind of up for you. Yeah, so the if we look at the political parties, we'll go into them, but they do have different kind of almost mascots almost, right? The Republicans' elephant, a donkey is the Democratic Party. But as they kind of talked about political parties, they're groups of voter with common interest who want to influence government, right? And so that's usually how people vote, is either one party or another, because third parties, they just don't have a lot of power, right? And so they just kind of think of that. The U.S. party we talked about, it's a two-party system. There's only two main parties that can really be in power because of the way it's set up. But as we said, it probably wasn't like founded to be that way, right? Because even George Washington said that, political parties will be the undoing of America. Needless to say, we have them. But there are some things they nominate candidates, right? So we don't have to look through every single thing. So we just have to look at one candidate when they're informed. Inform voters of what's going on. Ensure the candidates are qualified. I mean, that's why you hear some ridiculous things like, where's somebody's birth certificate, or were they actually born in the United States, right? If they're natural born citizen, what does that mean, right? Other one, help govern in Congress and state legislatures. So like my neighbor, he's my state legislator. And so when I have something that I need to talk to politically, I go talk to him and just say, hey, you need to help me. So somebody said, I'm third party, interesting, independent. Yeah. So they usually call, like, if you're not running it in a specific party, you can run as an independent, but independents usually do not win. There have been some major independents, but usually when they vote, they go to one party or another. Like, for example, he's a pretty popular one, but Bernie Sanders, he runs as an independent every year, but he what's called caucuses with the Democrats. And so he actually votes with the Democrats, 99% of the time. But he still runs as an independent. Okay. But he can do that because he just has a big name, right? Also, we talked about watching as watchdogs. I think this kind of goes overboard a little bit. Like they did this and they did that, right? And that's what we kind of hear all the time, I feel like. As we're talking about third parties, if you look here, they can influence elections. So Ross Perot ran in 1992. He's a billionaire, I believe, businessman. And he was running. There was George H.W. Bush and then also Bill Clinton. Okay. They were running against each other. As you can see, none of these turned for Ross Perot, but he did take up 18, almost 19% of the total vote. And he actually swung a lot of Republican voters. So basically, because of Ross Perot's running, Bill Clinton actually got put into office. So it can swing elections like this. Let's see here. Let me look at some comments. We have some interesting things. Okay. Yeah, so just maybe who you felt the best candidate is. You don't really say you're a certain party or not. Okay, I know that there are several people who want to run for a party. So how is it decided who will run? Yeah, so that's where they have what's called primaries. So usually what happens is if you want to run, you have to go and put in your name that you're going to run. And then you have to say that you're going to run under a certain party or you're going to be independent. If you're running under a certain party, what happens is they have two systems. One, they have primaries, which they go in where you vote. Usually that happens in June. And then they have the final election in November. But in the June primary elections, whoever gets the most votes is the one that goes to the general election under that party's name. Now, they do have a system as well. In some states, they've kind of changed it in Utah, but they used to have what's called the caucus system, where you go and you actually vote in different caucuses. And then whoever came out of that as the winner, than was the one that ran in the primary election, but they've kind of changed that to definitely primaries. Yep. So if you took that political quiz survey, it will give you things like that, Isaac. Yep. All right. Okay. So that is there. So today we got, two major parties. Those are the Republican Party. The Republican Party started because of the dispute over slavery. Abraham Lincoln was actually the first Republican president. They tend to be stronger on state government, so they think states should be able to make individual decisions for themselves rather than the federal government. They're not as much change as more of the Democratic Party. They're more traditional. They have talk about less taxes on the rich. They think that those that are more wealthy can put more money into the economy and create more jobs than it would if we just tax them. That's kind of their theory. Then less government spending. We should spend less on government. So we should tax less and the government should be lessened. And their symbol is the elephant. And here's some predominant Republicans. The most previous Republican president, sorry, I don't have it on here. This is a little bit old, but that was Donald Trump, of course. The next one is the Democratic Party. It has its roots from the Jefferson's Democratic Republican Party. So all the way back to the beginning, like the third president of the United States, tends to support a strong federal government, right? So the government should be bigger. They think that change should be more happening and quicker. They believe in taxing the rich more. And then also, once they tax the rich more, they should be able to spend that on government programs to run. Like, for example, there's welfare, food stamps, that kind of stuff. Their symbol is known as the donkey. And so here's some predominant Democratic presidents. And of course, the most recent one, President Biden, he is not on this, but not all of these were presidents, but, just members of the party. Okay, so real quick, this is just a touch base. Which one goes where? Okay, so just go and pull these in. It's a drag and click here. So you drag wherever you think it is. If you think it's that one, put these both in and then press done. So I'll give you a second to do that for those that are on the Nearpod. Yeah, so on the comments, yeah, we can talk about that a little bit. I think we may talk about a little bit coming up, but the Democrats are known to be like left-leaning and the Republicans are right-leaning. And what that means is just different ideologies, right? So actually, so how it is like that, you got centrist kind of group, right? Which are just kind of in the middle. And then if you go to the left, and if you look at like state legislatures or even Congress, they're set up that the Democrats are sitting on the left side and the Republicans are sitting on the right side. And that's how it's kind of put on there. But what it means by left, right, is the far left is basically like communism. Okay, that would be like the farthest left you can go. The farthest right you can go is like fascism. And so some people go in between that scale. Usually people don't go extremely one way or another, but I guess you can. But that's kind of where it kind of lies. And it's a little bit different like that. It's more like a spectrum, but that's how people kind of consider like, oh, I lean to the right or I lean to the left. That's what that means. Okay, so Democrats, it's once again strong central governments. They're federalists, meaning they like federal government to run things. Like socially liberal, so more social issues they'll kind of deal into. Loose interpretation of the Constitution, which basically means let's let's see. I wonder which one of the Republicans. So the first Republican president was Abraham Lincoln. Yeah. So they have loose interpretation of the Constitution. So that means like the Constitution that the founders created, what they believe is that that can be changed and modified and stuff like that, and you shouldn't have to follow it all the time, right? They believe in the free market, like capitalism, but with very big government limitations. And then what they call is leans to the towards the left, which we kind of talked about and stuff. And then the Republicans, right, are strong state of government, okay, state government. So they think the states should get more of the power to run it how they think that's their people should. They're anti-federalists, which means they think the federal government shouldn't be running a lot of stuff and be very limited on that thing. They're socially conservative, so like social issues that they don't think it should be like federal government should be using money for certain things for social issues that should be dealt with internally, I guess, on a family or state level. They think of a strict interpretation of the Constitution that the founders found that we should follow that to exactly what it says, not have like a different interpretation can vary from that. They believe more in a free market economy. So like less taxes, less restrictions on businesses and stuff. And they lean towards what's called the right. We did talk about some third parties. They rarely win elections. However, they can affect elections like we talked about with Ross Perot's case study there. The reason they fell is basically there's not enough votes to get them on the ballot. So you have to have a certain amount to actually get on the general election ballot. And they have a hard time getting that. They have trouble raising money because it costs like a couple $1 billion, I think, now to run for president. If you can believe that, with all the ads and that crazy stuff. And they also lack name recognition. So if you had a big name recognition, you might be able to run as a third party and win, but it's very, very hard. So that's why most people go into some category of the Republicans or Democrats when they're running. We talked about this, left or right. You know, people who have more traditional values are right. People who support more social change are to the left. Okay, and that's that quiz that I talked about. That's kind of interesting. I'll post that just in the chat one more time if you want to take it. As I said, if you don't want to, you don't have to. It's not required. Okay, and then that kind of leads us to the very end of the class today. Okay. So just once again, a review. If you missed a recording or whatever, a lesson, they're on here, announcement page. If you go to class plan, so you have live class today, lesson quiz 6, reflection 6, and then we have the post test next week that you need to get done, or you can get it done sooner. Last day to turn anything in is the 18th. Okay, yeah, if you have to go, that's no problem. See you guys later. You can find the quiz right here, the reflection, and then the post test is right there. So if you guys have any questions, please let me know. I'll stick around and we'll kind of go there. Thanks, guys. Appreciate you coming today. And I'll stick around if you have any questions.